Welcome to Ashley On, your one-stop podcast where we talk about health and wellness, spirituality, and all things new. Stick around as we delve deep into innovations to support a better world.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Today's show is with Richard Charpentier. Hope I got that right, Richard. Richard is the CEO of Baking Innovation, and Richard is really focused on new baking innovations with plant-based products. He's working on plant-based proteins, and he's also working with hemp as both a protein and as a alternative to baking, to regular wheat flour, to make gluten-free baked products using hemp. So it's a great, informative conversation. Really.
Hey guys, as always, this episode is brought to you by Packed with Life Tea. You know, I always talk about how much I love iced tea, and Packed with Life tastes fantastic. And I don't add any sweetener or anything like that. Just great tasting iced tea, packed with organic adaptogens, including the 4 key mushrooms: lion's mane, chaga, cordyceps, and reishi. Of course, it tastes great as hot tea as well, if that's your thing. And some people like to add a little bit of honey. But either way, no matter how you like your tea, you're going to love this tea, and it will boost your immune system, brain, lungs, and gut. That's why it's packed with life. So get yours today at packedwithlife.com. Have a great day.
Hello, Richard.
Hey, how are you? Let me put the video on. And
how are you?
Perfect. Can you hear me well?
All good. Very nice to meet you. I want to know how to pronounce your last name, though, before I butcher it.
It is French, and it's Charpentier, the French version, which is a Charpentier or carpenter in the US.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'll have to practice that a few times before recording the intro to this. So thank you for joining us. Richard, I know you're the founder of Baking Innovations, right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Baking Innovation. It's a consulting group, bakery consulting group.
Awesome. What got my attention and why I was interested in talking to you is actually right on your shirt, you know, the hemp and baking with hemp. My family has, it's great. My family has experienced some food allergies over our lifetime, and we've also experienced a lot of evolution in just how we eat in general, and the concept of nutrition is always top of mind to me, because I believe we are what we eat, and if we don't take really great pains to manage that, then we end up paying for it down the line in terms of our health and how things work out. So tell me about Baking Innovations, and about yourself, just as an intro, so that our audience understands who you are and how you got to the point you are with what you're doing.
Perfect. Hello to everybody listening and watching. My name is Richard Charpentier. I'm a French-trained baker, French master baker, certified master baker in the US. There's a little bit of a difference. And I'm a bakery scientist and a food historian, and passionate about the evolution of nutrition from the beginning of mankind all the way we are here, because bread was a staff of life, and being a true master baker. So I take my passion about the traditions and the old techniques that have forgotten, and how can we reapply it into modern time. And that's what Baking Innovation is, to show better ways to use ingredients that are available to us. And everybody loves bread. I've made Twinkies in my life. I've made Slim Jims. I've worked with the food industry. I've watched market studies and how we buy and what we buy and why we buy it for. But it's time. The belief of Baking Innovation is to bring food back to feeding the gut. And it's a tough message to say, because you're talking about the gut health, and people say, I don't want to talk about my gut with you. And it becomes, personal. But the gut is the second brain, and it's the only organ within the human body that is not connected directly to the spinal cord of the brain. It's phenomenal. So people will say, hey, wait a minute, if it's not the brain doing it, what is it? Well, it's what you eat. And that regulates trillions of bacteria and we only know probably 2% of it, science. So we have to watch what we eat, and that's what baking innovation. I created hemp and seeds, because I believe hemp is food, is fuel, is fiber. It's a good ingredient that has been around for a long time. There's a rich history we have forgotten. And today, I want, basically, having worked for the big companies, I want to make good quality products, because it's not just about price. It's about your body's worth more. Your body's a temple. And I know I'm talking, you got a talker on your hand. I love to share. And I tell my friends, we all have our cars and we love our cars. And everybody says, be careful, my friend. Put some premium gasoline, because your car will run better. And you're going to drive to Taco Bell and have a big drink and shitty food. And you're treating your car better than you. So
that's a great analogy.
When we rebalance everything. Yeah, that's
a great analogy. I love it. I think a lot of times, Richard, people want to believe, they want to hear things that reinforce what they believe and what they value, or what they can afford, or what their friends think, rather than just really the common sense that you just shared right there, right? I mean, why would we put in the premium gasoline in our nice car and then eat it at McDonald's or Taco Bell, right? So what do you think about that? And just like, again, I think people have a hard time confronting this reality because they don't want to. They want to believe they can eat whatever they want. They want to believe they can, that none of this really matters. And at the end of the day, I can just go take a drug and solve it all if I have a problem, right? What do you think about that?
Well, you get me, Lou. This is a subject that I love and adore, and I've studied. But to your point, we have become brainwashed. And with all my work and my study, and I have books from the 1764, I have wonderful books from 1825 from Brillat-Savarin, which was a French scientist at the early stage of chemistry and science, looking at the philosophy, the physiology of taste. So they were looking at how we as humans were connecting from the ancient times with food. And our needs were to use our senses. What do we have? We have the smell, the sight, the taste, the hearing, and I always forget. And there's one more, and I'll come back. And there's a fifth one. We used to use that, and through evolution, the reason why, and it's a long answer, because it's in history. The answers are always in the past, because you have to start where we started. And we have turned our physiological needs, and they alarmed us in the 1825 France when they said, hey, Paris, France, 1825, everybody watching, you'll think, oh, it's fancy, cafe, and we're having a good time. He said, we're starting to eat, every establishment and restaurants in Paris serves the same food, same fish, same sauce, same flavor. And that's the way we eat today. He said, we can't do that. We have to create diversity for yourself. And if you today look now in the future of where we live today, we have turned food in such a convenience thing that we have been brainwashed, and we have moved from the physiological needs where you connect, you're the farmer, you have to touch your apple, smell it, you're the baker, you touch the dough, because we come from farming lands. So we're connected with food, all of us. Unless you were the king and the queens. And we've turned that today with the psychological needs. So we eat because we think. We have lost, we're losing. And food, no diets works. Look at statistics. Diets, you'll fail. And 60% of the time after going on a diet, you'll gain even more weight. So why are we still going on diets? Because we're looking for the easy way. There's no easy way. You got to put the work. You have to connect with your food, bake, eat hemp, connect with your food, cook veggies, do something, an activity, go connect. We're sucked on our phones. And in one way, that's, it's a long story, but I'm passionate about it. It's something we need to realize what we're doing. And I've been studying it. I'm reading it's in the books. People were talking about it, say, be careful.
I think it's good that we talk about it, right? Because, when you talk about things in the universe, you create waves of thought and of knowledge. And the more that we talk about this, I think the more that people will begin to open up about it, because none of us likes the reality that we need to spend more money to get good food, right? We'd like to spend our money in other places. But at the end of the day, the argument I make, and I'm a converter. I'm a converted. I've spent a lot of time in my life not understanding this and not believing it, and frankly, helping a lot of really unhealthy brands and unhealthy foods have success. So, at the end of the day, I kind of look at things a little differently these days after having, again, just learned. And the more that I learn, the more I'm convinced you are what you eat. I think that was Plato originally that had that philosophical statement, which we should really think about, right? Think about how long ago that was and what that actually means. And the reality is today, people don't even teach nutrition in the medical schools. So our doctors and our physicians are ignorant to this reality of what we're talking about. We probably know more than most doctors about nutrition, which is ridiculous because neither one of us are trained in that area, right? But we pay attention and we understand and we learn. And like you said, you don't put the crappy gasoline in the new BMW. So with that kind of philosophical agreement, I guess, that we both have, and in that area, I'd really like to learn more about what you're doing with baking innovations. I know, and specifically with hemp, I have started this podcast kind of growing out of my involvement in the CBD industry, and I'm extending kind of beyond that into some other areas of just general wellness and livelihood, these days. But hemp is something that's really important to me in a lot of different ways. And I'd love to know, just from a baking perspective, what you're doing with it and what you can share with us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So, the philosophical approach earlier, it's really to lead to, hemp, and it's a story of food, and it's not only an amazing plant and an amazing multi-purpose ingredient. It's a delicious and nutritious ingredient that I've been applying in baking at the beginning when the FDA decided to make it a GRAS ingredient. And say, we're going to approve. The battle was going on before, but finally you could put it in any food you wanted. So I said, man, I'm going to play with it. So I started based on all my reading and that I was doing about health. And I have, books from the 17th century talking about, we ate about a pound of bread every day. Every day.
Wow.
Even in the 1800 in the US, think about a mom. Yeah, that was food. Everybody ate that. So I'm coming back to the roots of before. Make your own bread, eliminate the chemicals, make it fresh. It lasts 5 days. It has all the proper nutrition and the protein you need to get you going through the day. And you will eat less. I eat that. I don't have to do much because you're getting all the right dietary fiber, but you have to make the bread. But the trade-off is you feel better. So, and that's where, I'm building it with a message to be, come on, guys, everybody should, if it's not my bread, we have to eat better food. And hemp has perfect omega-3 and 6. And, people who love hemp will just say, yeah, we already know. Amazing protein. It can grow without herbicides or fungicides. It grows fast. You can use everything out of the plant. And as a friend of mine, he said, hey, hemp is like the vegan pig. It's a pig. You can use everything, but hemp, you can't sing. And I said, I like the analogy, but that's why hemp. And I think, it has to be used properly. And hemp is you have different varieties. So it's like wheat. So you have to understand what's being grown and how it's being processed. And coming from a baker, so I go approach hemp the same way I would do with grains. By flavor and functionality.
So you're using the hemp grain itself, or in other words, the hemp seed, if
yes,
for our audience, right? So talk to us about that, and talk to us about that again. So the protein, does that come from the seeds itself as well?
Yes. So basically, the part of this food, and I'm talking the hemp plant is a magical plant, and what we eat or what we consume or what's in my bread are the seeds, and on the seeds you have a hull. So they de-hull it, same as you would a wheat or corn. They have an envelope around it, and then you go towards the grain, then the seeds. And the seeds, similar to you would have it with a wheat kernel, you have an endosperm, you have a bran, and you have a germ. So you have different components. As the hemp seeds will have a part that is more for the oil and the part that will be more for left for the protein and the fiber. Or you can get the seed, the whole seeds. So you can get hemp for baking either as a de-hulled seed or as a hemp protein.
Awesome. So are you, where are you located? I should ask that first. Where do you live?
I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Okay. And are you using, I know I've had a couple of different episodes with folks in the hemp industry and the processing part of this. One of the challenges is finding enough of the product. Are you getting hemp seeds in the United States? Are you getting this imported, or are you already getting it in a flower form? Or tell us a little more about how you're working with it.
Yeah, I went through a process of selection when I first started up in 2000, we'll say 19, when it was December of 2018, when the FDA regulation changed. And at that point, I started working on it. Finding hemp was brand new for the US market. And the easy access, you had early companies, but not heavily advertised. The best growers, and they've been doing that for years, are the Canadians, because of different regulations in Canada. So it was easy access to bring some hemp as seeds, de-hulled, so meaning we took the envelope, the skin around it, if you want to say, and then I'm buying the seeds itself, and I'm buying portion of the seed grind up after you press, as you would do olive and olive oil. The remnant is then pressed into powder of a flour, and that contains protein.
And are you doing all of that work there in Philadelphia?
Yes, I do have a lab around Philadelphia, about an hour away in a smaller town. And I do my work. But truth being, this mix I started at home, because I started getting ingredients, and since I'm from the bakery scientist, I have access to more ingredients than the normal baker at home would. So I started getting all the right ingredients, and I'm using, along with hemp, I'm blending it with a whole barley flour. Barley is just phenomenal. See, I'm going a step beyond, where as a baker, I'm trying to bring harmony and sort of umami with all the grains by giving not only something that's going to be nutritious, something that will also be delicious. And it's a little bit of a French touch, to say, let's make it fun. Where eating should be fun, but you don't have to eat too much. You just have to eat whole food and the proper food to last you, for the day. And it's difficult, as we said. There's no education, and we don't teach it in school today. So
now, are you offering your own products as well, or are you more consulting with other food companies to kind of help them create products, or both?
I do both. And I'm going to say, people, some of my customers watching me, I'm going to say it, but it's true. I would rather I have my own product, than do other things. And I'm a creator, and this is the first product we now for. It's a rustic French bread mix, but overall it's called a bread mix because we put a yeast packet, and all you have to do is add water and oil to make it very simple for people. So, and it will make you one loaf of bread, and we give little, know-how. And ideally with that is for those who love hemp and hemp products, and going back to, clean label and minimizing. As long as you love baking, it's really simple to do. You do it on a Sunday, you crank it up while you're watching a TV, the bread will proof. You can technically make a loaf of bread, quality loaf of bread, in less than 2 hours if you wanted the short way. But if you have time, you could take, in the afternoon on a Sunday in the winter. And I always said the smell of fresh bread at home is so phenomenal. So you should try it too.
Awesome. Are you, now the products, I know gluten-free is a kind of a controversial topic to some folks, and, to others, it's a real issue, for people. Are you working with gluten-free options in this process, or creating to try to find, because that's one of the things in our family we've experienced, is some of us have issues with gluten and others don't. And we've kind of learned that just by eating and what happens to us afterwards. And, through that process, it's become evident that there's not a lot of options. And my wife does a lot of cooking herself, and she's a fantastic cook. And she creates a lot of gluten-free options for our family just by using alternative types of solutions. Like she'll make, a chicken parmesan, and then the crust will be made out of panko crust or something like that, as opposed to wheat. So anyway, do you have anything that you've learned in the gluten-free area that you could talk about?
Well, it's as you can see, what I've created is basically to do easy options for people. So we created a line of 4 new products, and I'll put a little plug for it. It's an artisanal, it's a German rye, and the last one is a keto. So for different types, and I'm in the product development stage now, where I've been getting phenomenal results using hemp for gluten-free, because it brings functionality and taste. So
you get more benefits too with it, right?
And you bring nutrition, because gluten-free today on the market, it's devoid of real nutrition. It's all carb. And so when you take the gluten, you take the protein away, do you have to replace it with other things like sugar? So gluten-free, if you have celiac, yes, but if you're going to gluten-free for maybe intolerance, and I've read a lot about it, it could be more than just gluten today.
It often is, right? Okay, so you're working on, as part of your line and part of what you're working on, you're developing a gluten-free solution. Is that where you're focusing with hemp?
Yeah,
is in that area?
We want to become overall. There's other things that I'm working on, like flour innovation. We're a company dedicated to really functional nutritional flour, and I've worked with things like cricket powder. It's really to go into unique nutrition through flour blends, because at home you could make a pancake mix, get the nutrition you need, and you eat a good balanced grain diet at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you're not hungry until 4 o'clock until you have a snack. And that's the way we should be eating as you get older. We need good solid energy to last you through the day. And today it's bombarded by white flour and high carb diets. So
yeah, absolutely. What can you tell us that thank you for sharing about the products, but what else can you tell us about what you're working on that's really exciting to you that I haven't asked you about?
Innovation of the future. There's a lot of work going on into functional protein, plant protein, and it's sort of a buzzword. Lots in the segments of breakfast and lunch and dinner categories. There's plenty of innovation at the root level, and I do a lot of work with specialty, very unique ingredients, like some sweet potato flour, some sunflower flour, some quinoa, some okra powder. So you can start blending ingredients we have forgotten to bring nutrition and functionality. But the key is to make it delicious and it's nutritious. Because if it doesn't taste good, nobody will buy it.
Yeah, that's the truth for sure. So plant-based protein, right? It's a huge topic as well. And unfortunately, a lot of those conversations end up going down the path of, the GMO conversation, because a lot of the plants that are being utilized in many cases, especially soybeans, are highly utilized with Roundup, which is designed. That's why they're GMO'd, so they accept the Roundup. What about what you're working with in that regard? What you've seen? What are your thoughts?
On the subject of non-GMO or less processed?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the less processed part of the conversation, and non-GMO is more. A lot of people think it's fantasy world. I know a lot of people don't, and I just would wonder what your perspective is.
Well, my take on it is the GMO. Having spent all the years as a food scientist, bakery scientist, and I don't think GMO is an ugly word. It's just necessary. Maybe the word itself is weird, but as the big issue we're having and on GMO is the population is growing exponentially. And I was born in 71. We had 3.2 billion people living on this planet. 50 years later, we now have almost 8 billion. So we have to find ways to find food that is easy to produce. And unfortunately, to your point, we've been using, crops, and I've read things that, and the biggest issue is, and for all those listening, I love my facts, but 75% of the world global agriculture is controlled by 4%. That's all. And then when you say, what should I eat? Eating well and knowing what you eat and knowing how your food is processed, it's tough. And the pollution is everywhere. If people love science, and you can read the EPA water report, it's public information for those interested. And then you'll see what we do.
Do you think hemp presents maybe a solution in some ways?
Definitely.
I think you mentioned earlier that, that hemp doesn't require a lot of pesticides and stuff like that. So wouldn't that hemp protein, obviously that's a plant, wouldn't hemp-based protein or plant protein be an alternative to maybe solving that conversation around GMOs?
Exactly, because the more we're going to grow it, the more we're going to see farmers going back to say, we're going to grow hemp. The cheaper will become. Think about what you do. We're talking about food. You have a lot of activity going into homes made out of hemp concrete. So you're taking the pulp, the fiber, you go turn it into a house, you built your house with it. And you know what? It has no chemicals. Anything in modern home, in your door, with some, how do you call the thing you put in between walls, that
insulation.
Insulation and all those things. Right now, hemp becomes your insulation. And hemp as a natural product is antimicrobial. So, and anti-mold. So that means it's not going to grow mold if you have humidity. Wouldn't you want a house where you don't have to worry about mold, and it filters the oxygen? It's better for the environment. So we have possibilities, but the key is we need to stop. There's still that stigma, as you know, about hemp. I tried to sell hemp food, and people are still telling me, "Oh, Richard, is this CBD you're talking about?" So we need to start separating as in an industry. There's food, there's concrete, there's oil, there's medicine.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I appreciate your time, Richard. Just in wrapping up, I don't know if there's any closing information you want to share with our audience, anything about innovation that you didn't get to share, or anything you want people to think about.
You remember the last point is we are what we eat. And the aphorism comes from Bria Savarin, the guy I mentioned. He said, tell me what you eat, and show me what you eat, and I'll tell you who you are. And I think that's the only, watch what you eat, read the labels, and don't trust everything you read. So awesome.
Richard, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be in touch soon. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Great talk. Take care.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Ashley on Nothing But the Truth for a Better You and Me.